Alright, so there was some definite good to this episode, but there were also, unfortunately, some things I really didn't like about this episode at all. Let's start with the good. I really loved that Robert Rodriguez is the director of this episode. It didn't really feel like a Robert Rodriguez production. Robert Rodriguez is a guy who directed and wrote the movies Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico starring Antonio Banderas. And I grew up with those movies and I absolutely loved them. He also did Spy Kids, if you're familiar with that. I didn't watch that, but I love the shit that he does. I love his movies. I should watch Spy Kids, honestly, now that I think about it. But I love the shit that he does. This didn't feel like a production of his, but at the same time it did. And it was great knowing that he made it. I just love knowing that there's great people behind the camera making something that I'm going to enjoy watching. I love the fact that Jon Favreau wrote this episode. He gave us the Mandalorian, and this definitely had a Mandalorian feel to it. I got definite Mandalorian vibes from this episode. And I love that. It gave me nostalgia, like something I've seen before, but all fresh stuff. So I really appreciated that. I really loved the way they play with time in this episode. The way that they have his present self, Boba's present self, as a badass boss. He stepped into Jabba's shoes, and now he's the top dog crime boss. He's no longer a gun for hire, and I love seeing him as a badass. We have that, and then he takes his little naps. He takes those little snooze nappy noo times where he's sleeping in that healing chamber, and then we see past sequences. And I don't know how this is going to play out for every episode. In every episode, is he going to take a little nap and then we're going to see stuff from the past? Because that's going to get a little bit wearing down on you after a while. You're going to get tired of seeing this fool nap every single time just to see some past sequences. So I don't know how that's going to play out for every episode. It's got me a little worried how they're going to do it, but I'm sure they're on top of that shit. And I love the way that they show us what happened right away to Boba, right in the beginning, after he gets eaten by that sand monster. I love how we get to see how he gets out of that predicament, and a lot of shit befalls him after that, which is all downhill for him, which was awesome to see. But it was just, I just really was curious, how did this fool get out of that predicament after he was eaten? And finally we get that answer, and that was great to see. Now the stuff I didn't like so much. I gotta say, guys, the action was bullshit. Absolute bullshit. The action sequences were trash. I thought the fight scene was so poorly choreographed. It was terrible. It was atrocious. I hated seeing it. The fight sequence was so bad. It was just terrible. Seeing Boba get his ass kicked over and over again by those guys with those laser shields. I mean, this is supposed to be the baddest bounty hunter in the world. Just the top crime boss of all crime bosses. And this fool's getting laid out like he's a rag doll, like he's nothing. And his right arm chick, Fennec Shan, the Asian chick who's a badass too, who's supposed to be badass. She is everything but a badass in this. She gets her ass handed to her in this. And the fight sequence just looked poorly developed. It didn't look good at all. Nothing like what I've seen from Robert Rodriguez's Desperado and Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Those have awesome, legendary fight sequences that are so sick to see. But in this, it was trash. It was horrible. It was rough to watch. I also didn't really like the set pieces. I thought the set was kind of whack a little bit. There was nothing too good about the set. It seemed like a very low budget episode. Nothing seemed that great. Yeah, Jon Favreau's the writer of this, but it didn't seem like that fool had to do too much work at all. Most of the dialogue in this was just gargle noises and screaming from those Tusken Raiders, the sand people. I can't do the sound. It's kind of like Chewbacca-ish kind of, but that was most of the dialogue back and forth was from those dudes. So that's not too much writing that he has to deal with at all. So I don't know, it just felt like the development of this kind of seemed low budget a little bit. But overall, I really enjoyed the episode. There's a scene that I absolutely loved. It's the final scene of the episode between Boba Fett and a Tusken Raider, and the Tusken Raider hands Boba something, and that just said miles and miles. He doesn't say a word in English, but just that little gesture that he gives tells you so much, and I love seeing that. I felt like a great story was told there, just in the final sequence. I thought the episode overall was a good episode. I enjoyed watching it. There were some really good points, like I mentioned, and some trash, as I've said. But overall, I give this episode a creme de la out of a creme de la creme rating. It wasn't the best episode I've ever seen by any means, but it was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it, and there were some key moments in there that I was like, damn. Damn, dude, that was pretty tight. So overall, I give it a creme della. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. I'm curious to know if you guys have seen it, what you guys think of it. If you guys watch it after this review, I want you guys to come back and let me know what you guys thought, because I'm really curious to know. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe for more content and reviews, and I'll catch you on the next According to Ash.